Hello, beautiful beloveds. This is Stephanie Parasha, Divine Light, coming out to you from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Just a few disclaimers on this video before I start into the topics of what I'm going to talk about today. One is I've actually got a bit of a virus, or it could just be allergies at this time of the year. It's spring in New Zealand and there's a lot of pollen around and there's a lot of viruses floating around. And although spring and September are my most favourite months of the year, because also it's my birthday month this month and it's my daughter's birthday and I love September. Unfortunately, I've developed a bit of a cough, so I do hope that that does not affect this video recording too much. And the other disclaimer is that this video may be a little bit longer than normal because I have been given quite a lot of information to bring through. And before I start with the topics today, I usually tune into the energies of Jesus and Mary, who I feel to me represent the overriding devas or gods or energies that oversee the twin flame journey. So this morning I connected into them before I brought this message through, and I asked for their blessing on the information, and they said, yep, go ahead, but we're a little bit busy right now because we're actually really focused on the hurricane and everything to do with that. So they've been sort of dispatched, I guess you could call it, to that area, or they're really focusing in on the prayers of the people in that region. So I also want to acknowledge the effect of the hurricane on the devastation that it's caused to the Caribbean islands, and as it is now, I'm not sure where it's up to as I record this. I know that it's just, I believe, on its way to hitting the Florida area, so, and that many people have evacuated, and it's a really big, really scary thing for people. So I really want to acknowledge and send prayers to that area and to those people, and to know that, you know, you are being thought of, and it's really difficult. So best wishes with you, and I really hope and trust and pray that the devastation and loss is minimised, and that there should be minimal suffering to all. Okay, so so just sending that out from our hearts, and all those that are listening to this, please also tune into that energy to send out love and peace and harmony to that area to minimise suffering. Okay, so the video that I'm going to be, in this video I'm going to be talking about, there's two main parts to it. The first part is that I'm going to be talking about is 3 relationships that are really important on the twin flame journey that will really help our process. And the second part of this video will be a little bit of an update on the ground from Twin Flame Land in terms of how things are playing out in my Twin Flame journey, and also how a little bit more information about what's happening with the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine and how things are going there. So I'm going to begin with talking about these 3 relationships which are very important and will really affect our journey. So those 3 relationships are our relationship with self, our relationship with God or higher purpose or higher power, and I'll get more into the detail of that and when I go into the detail. And the other relationship, of course, is with our twin, and again I will get into more information about what that is about when I go into each stage. So I'm going to start with, and each of these relationships are equally important and need to be equally balanced. However, you know, when one is out of alignment, you'll need to go into the other one to correct the imbalance. If it's not balanced, one would need more attention than the other one, for example. Okay, so let's start with self, and I'm starting with self because the imbalance is that this requires more attention than at present, or for many, not all, but for many, that this relationship requires more attention at present, because for many it has been neglected and it hasn't been recognised, it hasn't been honoured, and so currently for many, this relationship is with the self is more important. So what does that actually mean, relationship with self? So that means I'm going to use, first of all, I'm going to talk about meditation and with the self. So for me, there's two types of meditation, or there's actually hundreds of different types of meditation, but when I'm doing meditation for me, I will often firstly tune into myself. So what that means is I'm checking in with where I'm at, and I'm really focusing in on me and checking in with my energy and giving myself the time and the space to just be with me and to fill myself first, to fill myself with whatever I feel maybe I'm missing, or maybe I'm a little bit stressed out, so I need to calm myself down. So that first part of my meditation will be, where am I at in myself? Excuse me. And so, let's just say I'm stressed out, so that would be, okay, calming myself down, getting my energy straight. If I'm feeling a little bit depleted with energy, I will be asking and inviting higher source power to fill me, maybe to energize me with energy. So that is really about tuning into the self. The other thing about the relationship with the self is how we talk to ourselves, how I speak to myself. Am I using harsh words or judgment to myself, or am I positively encouraging myself and saying, no, I forgive myself. So it's all about those words of that we, in our relationship with ourselves. Am I taking the time to have alone time if it's needed? Am I self-caring? Am I looking after myself in terms of eating the right foods and having enough exercise, getting enough fresh air, getting enough rest? Am I looking after myself in relation to others when others may be putting demands on my time or my energy? Am I able to put the boundaries in to say no and to honour myself when I'm needing to look after myself? So part of that relationship with the self is establishing a really strong sense of self, knowing who I am and being really grounded in who I am, and being really connected to all the parts of myself, the human parts of myself, the relationships with myself in terms of others, the energy that I bring to the world, and who I really am. So this part of this relationship is, I believe, for me currently, is actually one of the most important ones. And as we went into the twin flame journey, we realised at the beginning we thought it was going to be this wonderful romance made in heaven, and it was going to be beautiful, and we finally met our soulmate, and off we go into the relationship, and many of us found that we were sort of thrust back into really looking at ourselves. So this has been a major part of the twin flame journey, and it will affect, so the relationship with yourself will affect your relationship with others and your twin. So that's why we need to dedicate enough time. And so when I'm talking about these three relationships, the self, God, and twin, look, it's a triangle, it's a trinity, it's three things. So putting whatever you're needing to put in balance at the top of that trinity. Okay, so if on the other extreme of that, if people are becoming too focused on the self and spending all their time and energy just on themselves, obviously there is the imbalance of that, which is when people become selfish. And so that, again, everything's got its balance. So we find our balance in that we're giving enough time to self, and when our cup is full and when we feel solid in ourselves and we feel calm and still and knowing who we are, then we can move on to the next relationship, which is with God. Now, I'm not saying we move on to, these relationships are actually interchangeable. So each of these relationships weave in and out of each other as well. So they're not isolated from each other. They're not separate, although they may require a separate focus. They are also then interrelatable. So the self then, the next relationship is with the self with God. Okay, now this is probably one of the most misinterpreted relationships there really is in our world at current. So what this is actually playing out quite a lot currently, and we're seeing the polarity and the imbalance of the misunderstanding of what the self's relationship to God is. When I'm talking about God, I'm not talking about God in terms of how religion has dictated to what God is. I'm talking about your individual, direct relationship to God's source energy, however you choose to interpret that in meaning to yourself. I'm not talking about sitting down and reciting prayers out of a book without being in your heart and being connected to something that you feel is bigger than yourself, whether that be, and some people may interpret that as nature, being close to earth, sitting on the grass and feeling that connection, that deep connection to the grass, and then the earth below your feet, and then maybe the sky and the air and the wind and the elements, and this is another way to connect with God's source, because God's source is the creator of all, right? The creator of us, the creator of everything. And so that connection is very important in how you make time for this and how you connect with this. So I'll use the example of meditation again, because part of my meditation is also when I connect in first with myself to make sure I'm grounded and I'm connected and I'm doing what I need to do for me. And then the next part of my meditation will be connecting with God's source. And that'll be receiving messages. And so if we're using nature as an example, that would be sometimes the birds or the animals will give me a message or a sign. So we get animal spirits that are showing us, animal spirit guides that show up in our lives to teach us something. I've had that at various stages in my life. Like, for example, one day I came home and there was a praying mantis right on my door. And I was like, okay, what is that message trying to tell me? I could tell that there was a message coming from nature. And I believe that we're all connected, that nature, God and self is all connected, absolutely. So it's that opportunity to receive insight, to receive guidance, to receive wisdom, to receive energy and healing from something that is perceived to be outside of ourselves as we're having a human experience, but is actually very much connected, but gives us more power, I guess you could say, in terms of feeling way more connected than if we were just seeing ourselves as an isolated human on our own. So this relationship, I believe, is also equally important and needs to be given time and attention and focus. As again, it's going to interrelate with the self and God, and then we come into the third relationship, which again can be seen separately or interwoven into the other two relationships, which is the relationship with our twin. So now I believe that the relationship with the self and God will pretty much determine the relationship with your twin. So if those relationships, the relationship with the self is lacking, if the relationship with God's source is lacking, then your relationship with your twin flame it's going to show up in that relationship, because our twin is our reflection, our twin is our mirror, and so they're going to reflect back to us whatever parts that we are either missing or that we are connected to, right? So I also I'm getting the message that for those that believe they are a twin flame but have not yet met their twin flame, this is also relevant in terms of maybe your relationship with another. So that could be how you're relating to a karmic relationship or a soulmate or even a sibling or a mother or father or a son or daughter or any intimate partner or close relationship, colleague, friend. So how we're relating to others basically is affected by our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with God. So when we have complete self-love, honour, forgiveness, acceptance with ourselves, and the support and the connection with God, nature, the angels, guides, spirits, however you perceive that, if you have that connection, you are feeling this living through you and completely, your relationship will have your relationships either with your twin or with others will have a much better chance at being harmonious. And when I'm saying better chance, I'm not saying it's going to be completely harmonious, because there's going to be a disclaimer here for the fact that we are human, and I think many are led to believe on this journey, and it is a human condition, that we think we have to be perfect and everything has to be wonderful, and that those twin flames that are currently in union, that they must just have this perfect idyllic life where everything's just harmonious and wonderful. Well, we've got to be realistic, because we are still living in a third dimensional, partly human existence, where there's a massive amount of people in the mainstream and the collective that are still very much connected to the pains and the suffering and the wounding of the past, and that is still very much playing out at present in our human collective experience. So you'd be pretty hard pushed to say that, even though you may have worked very hard on your personal vibration and done a lot of clearing and healing and purging and of your own personal childhood wounds, or clearing out ancestral wounding and lines and things like that, and also coming into a connection with your twin based on those principles of having that beautiful self-loving relationship with yourself and God, that being the ideal and being completely how we all are, what we're all aiming for and what we'd all like to live. And I would love to hope that there are some at that point that are living in that way and able to anchor in those energies. But please don't, that would be, I would say, the minority at this point. So please don't be upset if we acknowledge that and I am one that's working on this, that's currently still, I don't even want to say still, because it sounds like a judgment. I'm currently working on this. So, yeah, I feel like that's pretty much kind of summed it up, really. I don't want to go too much in depth. I think you'll get the key message around that. So, there's just one more aspect to that. So if you're seeing that, and as I'm talking to you, my hands are just going into this Trinity. They just won't stop going into this Trinity. So I'm seeing, really clearly that Trinity of God, self, twin relationship. So relationship with self, relationship with God, and then relationship with twin and others. And then if that is where you meet the other person, see, they would also have their own Trinity. They would also, hopefully your twin would also be doing the same thing. So if you're both equally done the same amount of work in terms of self-love work, self-connection, and then God connection, and then your connection as you come together will just be so beautiful. And you've got the three and the two Trinities, which becomes the six. So I have alluded to the fact that I am working on bringing out the next video, which is going to be the number videos series, which is going to be on the number 6. So this is partly to do with that. Okay, so yeah, I think that covers that section. Excuse me, I have to turn my page because I've got some notes. Now, so in terms of a general energy update around overall the energies of the divine masculine, the divine feminine, where we're up to, we're a large portion of us that are travelling together in a similar, I'd call us a pod, I guess. We're all travelling together. I will say that many, myself, I can only talk about this because I am in this, and how do I know that I'm a twin flame? Because I was thrust into the most ridiculous amounts of signs and synchronicities that were so almost impossible for me to deny, that I had to own it, even though I was trying to deny it at first. I was like, nah, but actually that's how I know that I'm a twin flame, and that's how I know that the person that I believe is my twin flame, because of all the signs and synchronicities relating to him and how our relationship is playing out. And I would call myself what I'd call as the preparation stage. I don't like the term separation because I don't believe that it really gives meaning to what that part of the journey is about, because I know that when my twin and I first met each other, it was definitely recognition. but we have had so much to work through in order to, be able to understand what this is all about, that we have definitely had to go into our own spaces to work some of this stuff out. And both of us have had to have another relationship, karmic relationship, in order to work some of this stuff through in terms of understanding our wounding and our patterning, and just having alone time as well, and amongst that to really just work on ourselves, because that part, as I said, that was what was a lot out of balance for a lot of people. And so working on ourselves in relation often with another person, you can still work on yourself when you're with another person, has been really important. And so just recently, in terms of where we've come up to with our journey, we are friends, and we've always remained friends throughout the whole entire time. So that's why when I talk about separation, we haven't really separated, because we haven't really ever actually been together as such, although we've been very, very close friends. And so we're able to talk on quite a close level. And just recently, I know that my twin has been through, as a divine masculine, a massive ego identity kind of, the crumbling of his ego identity, and he shared that with me and what that meant for him, and it really caused a lot of wobbling for him, and how he just found that really difficult, and it was really, really hard, but he worked through it, and he also went through a stage where he had to go to the depths of what it meant to feel the feeling of being alone, and then come back from that and realise that he really was loved and accepted, and also just having ended his second karmic relationship, which was quite a pattern for him, and he realised he was in another similar relationship to what he'd been in before. So that was quite interesting. And then we've just had a catch up just in the last few days, and the other thing that we come up was interesting in our meeting was I actually found another number synchronicity with our in our relationship, which was really quite freaky actually. So I was like, oh my gosh, that really freaked me out. But again, another confirmation. So okay, so that's just kind of a small example in my personal life of on a bigger scale what I believe is happening for the divine masculine. And now another disclaimer on the divine masculine, as we know that the genders do not necessarily represent the energy of the masculine. So male doesn't necessarily represent masculine, female doesn't necessarily represent feminine. We know, although it's the majority of the case, that there are quite a number of men that are carrying the divine feminine and women that are carrying the divine masculine. So, disclaimer before I go into this. So we're definitely, coming more into that balance where, and my twin and I had a conversation about this, and we talked about how he had been very much in his rational mind and the way that he saw the world, and he'd cut off his emotions, and he realised as he started to lose the identity of his ego how it was important to realise to acknowledge the emotional. So he is now coming much more into the balance of understanding his emotions and realising how important they are. So that's happening for the twins, for the masculines. So moving out of less in the rational, more into the emotional, balancing out that part of their existence and their brains. Definitely ego dismantling, surrendering more, and really seeing that ego as the facade now as being so fake, and how fake it is, and how it's not serving them anymore. Moving on to the feminine, and then I'll talk about how that interrelates. So the feminine, some are still, and I'm not going to say there's a majority, but some are still, and I'm going to say still, not as a judgment, but just as an awareness, stuck, because I've heard many talking like this, and I'm kind of surprised given all the information out there. But anyway, and overlaying those 3D concepts onto the twin flame experience. So I've talked about this in previous videos. So in terms of thinking that the twin flame is kind of it's going to be like a husband or an intimate partner, and the whole white picket fence, and this is how relationships go in terms of, if he's not contacting me, then he mustn't, doesn't love me, or if he doesn't want to take me out on a date, that means he doesn't really love me. This is really frustrating me now. I think you've just got to really get over this, because it's not how it's going to be. It's totally different. The things that we have needed to have on this journey are incredible amounts of patience. So that is still required for many. Patience in order to allow this process to unfold. You've got to trust this process. You cannot see it as a normal relationship. It is not a normal relationship. So there are some that are still kind of a little bit stuck in that, so really working hard to release that if possible. There is a song that came through to me to demonstrate how this is working, and I've been hearing it non-stop in my head all week, so I will actually post it below, because it's quite a funny song, and it's from the 90s, and as we know, the Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs that Twin Flames left ourselves in the timelines to come back in this time to sing us songs in our heads to remind us of how to go about this. And the song is Hold On by Wilson Phillips, and it's been going on and on in my head. So it's basically hold on for one more day. So just keep holding on. It's going to happen. It will happen. Don't give up. I do send this message out a lot, but really don't give up on this process. It does take time, and there are shifts happening. There are huge shifts in the masculine and the collective, and it is going to actually happen really quickly once it happens. They're all going to shift over really quickly, but they're nearly there. So what I'm also seeing is that there are also many, I will talk about those feminine that have done amazing jobs of releasing their unhealthy attachments and obsessions to this twin flame journey and really letting that attachment go. And that's been a really hard lesson for many, and it's just been one of the hardest and hugest parts of this journey, to let go of attachment, surrender and trust, and to just get on with your life regardless, and to just keep going and just focusing on you. And that's been great, and there are many feminines that are doing that. And what I'm getting is that the masculine will soon be ready. Those that have been in separation or preparation, I will call it, will soon be ready to start spending more time together. And it's going to be in small steps, and as a result of a little bit of a reversal here, because we are experiencing some reversals of the polarities that have happened. So where we had the runner and the chaser, and people diss that, and some people believe it and some people don't. I know that does happen, and it's basically to do with our attachment style, and it's related to either anxious bonding or avoidant bonding, which is related to how we were brought up in our childhood, and how we either in relationships will latch on and become extremely dependent and become anxious and want to cling on to that person, or as soon as we get close to someone we just freak out and are afraid of intimacy and run away. So that is a dynamic, and it is for real, and it's in psychology, and it's happening very much in the twin flame experience. So and what's happened is, generally speaking, the runner has been the masculine and the chaser has been the feminine, generally speaking. And obviously we know, again, that plays out in the male-female, but it doesn't necessarily. So there's some male chasers out there as well. So anyway, so those that have been doing their work in terms of going extremely in the other direction of that, and doing a lot of their work on their self-love and their codependency issues, and putting in more boundaries and understanding more about how to really concentrate on the self, and that's very much been me doing a lot of that work. And can I just recommend here that if you really are finding you're struggling with this part, and you're wanting a little bit more information on how to work with this, and if you have been attracting as a codependent love deficit person a narcissistic karmic partners into your life, I highly recommend you go and look at the work of Ross Rosenberg and see what he talks about. And he even talks about the human magnet syndrome, and this is the real extreme version of runner chaser. I would not say, I'm just getting told, disclaimer here again, twin flames are not narcissists. Karmic partners are narcissists. I just have to say that. Gosh, that sounds like a really bold statement. But anyway, so you would have been, if you've attracted a narcissist, they will not be your twin flame. They will be your karmic lesson. So, right, okay, so I've written down here, we're going to get back on track here. So what's going to happen is the feminine that has done the work or the chaser that has done the work on filling themselves with self-love and healing those anxious wounds or of the past in childhood where that's created an anxious bonding through childhood trauma. We're those that have done their healing on that and really in a good place in terms of feeling really self-secure, have learnt how to put those boundaries in, are really almost feeling like, I could actually live quite happily without someone. I don't even feel like I really need my twin. I'm quite happy just getting along with myself, and I've made such a progress in the world that I'm kind of streaking ahead, and now I've set up my own business and I've got my own home and I'm really interdependent. I'm no longer dependent on others. I'm no longer attracting those relationships that I kept attracting in the past. So those that are in that space, as your twin is actually going to start coming towards you a little bit more, because they're also closing up their karmic relationships and taking more steps to you and feeling as if they want to spend a little bit more time together, slowly. Now, what may happen is that instead of being in your old way, which was, oh my God, he's come towards me, I'm going to fall in love, that's, and getting all silly and gaga and goo and mushy how we used to be, we're actually going to be in that place that says, let's take it slow. Let's not rush into this. We're just gonna, and it's almost like it's going to be like a bit of a flip, and it's going to appear to the masculine that you're kind of rejecting them, because they're going to come to you because they're now feeling what you've been going through, which is a little bit sort of vulnerable and because they're going more into their emotions and out of their rational, they're going to need more support, which is great, but you're going to give it with boundaries. You're not going to let them start being all codependent with you. You're going to be like, okay, that's cool, we can spend time together on a Friday, but actually I'm busy on a Thursday, Monday and a Tuesday or whatever. And you're going to see the benefits now of not rushing in and not forgetting yourself and maintaining your connection, as I talked about on the first part of this video, with the self first, anchoring, grounding in with the self, and then anchoring and connecting in with God's source to provide you with that beautiful insight and guidance and wisdom that you're going to have now as you begin to harmonize with your twin flame. Right. So, yeah, and you're coming at it from a completely different foundation from where you were before, because previously, I kind of get a sense of talking about this in terms of chakras. I know we've also been working on our lower 3 chakras, so the feminine has been working on grounding the lower 3 chakras, and that's our foundation now. We've got more stability through the base and the root chakra, feeling more secure in ourself and our identity and sexuality, loving the self more, so we're no longer feeling ashamed. We've cleared a lot of shame and guilt and all those things that used to put us into unhealthy relationship patterns. So much has been cleared out now, so we've really got a really cool foundation to be standing on, and also the solar plexus in terms of clearing out that anxiety and fear that's so much been a part of our past. So we're just really starting. It's going to be great. So you can see how we're developing here, and I know that I'm talking about a big movement of a community that's moving in a similar direction, a collective process of twin flame, on the twin flame journey. Okay, so let me see, how long has that been? 33 minutes, one of my longest videos. I do apologise for that, but they told me I need to get this information out, and it's really important, so I won't carry on for too much longer. I hope that's really helped. Again, if any of you are requiring any support or healing or would like a session with me, please check out the link below, go onto my website, and you'll see the different sessions there that I have available, or just email me and we can come up with something that suits you. Okay, thanks very much for listening, and please share and subscribe and like, and put your comments below so we can have a conversation. And I'll talk to you again all very soon, sending you out heaps and heaps of love and light for your journey. Okay, bye.